How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On The Ball and welcome back to a massive transfer update for you guys. We've got a lot of names to get through, so let's start off with the first name, which is Aymeric Laporte of Manchester City, as Romano says that he understands Al-Nassr have improved their salary bid to sign Aymeric Laporte. No formal proposal yet, but verbal discussions advancing on personal terms. City are open to give the green light and it's up to the player. However, David Ornstein says that Manchester City have accepted an offer from Al-Nassr for Aymeric Laporte. The 29-year-old Spanish centre-back is into the final 2 years of his contract and is thought to be open to the possibility of going out to Saudi. Man City are willing to sell, with Saudi club Al-Nassr pushing to get the deal done. Unbelievable. Another big talent going over to Saudi, it looks like.
Yeah, sound like a broken record. Like I could sit here and say, why don't another top European club go for him? Why isn't he considering staying in Europe? But at the end of the day, it's clear as day, money talks. And to be fair, not only that, the Saudis are genuinely, you got to say, with all those players being going there, like every team is building up a proper team at the moment.
Well, it's like 3 or 4 clubs.
I think, yeah, but still, like they're building up. Like there's a lot of good players joining that league. So even considering like the competition-wise tripling, obviously it's not the level yet of European football, but it's not going to be that bad considering all of the players moving there. So I'm kind of starting to, I obviously understand big money. He's going to take it. I am surprised that at 15 million, no club even tried their luck to try and agree a deal with Man City. But maybe it's a case of they're only going to agree a deal once Laporte has signalled he would like to go to the club, and maybe that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, another good player. I've been like barking on all summer for Spurs to try and get a deal done for Aymeric Laporte, but it looks as though he is going over to Al-Nassr. Let's talk about a potential incoming for Manchester City, and that is Dani Olmo of RB Leipzig, as Damasio says that Man City and Pep Guardiola are keeping tabs on Dani Olmo. However, RB Leipzig do not want to sell and will request a huge fee if City come in for him. Well, RB Leipzig are lucky that Man City have a lot of money then.
That's definitely true. I wonder if they're going to have to make a decision between Dani Olmo and like Paqueta. If I was them, if they can get Dani Olmo for a bit cheaper, I'd probably go for him. Although, having said that, considering De Bruyne is injured now, I actually think Paqueta would suit what De Bruyne brings a bit more than Dani Olmo would. Dani Olmo is more of a forward player. I think Paqueta can do that midfield role that De Bruyne can do. But knowing City, they're probably going to end up signing both. I think they could do with Olmo's versatility in the front line. I think he's perfect for what they want, that kind of possession keeping winger who likes to like help pick the lock and can also take players on, and he's so creative. I think he's brilliant, Dani Olmo. So I think he would fit in right in at City.
Any club that gets Dani Olmo is a very lucky club. This guy has bundles of talent. I mean, all you need to do is look at that hat-trick he scored in the Super Cup final last week against Bayern Munich. But aside from that, I mean, he shows it week in, week out for RB Leipzig. He's an absolutely top quality player. And if Man City get him, that's another world-class talent going over to Manchester City. But in terms of another incoming into the Premier League, this is a done deal for Aston Villa, and that is Nicoló Zaniolo. Romano says that Zaniolo to Aston Villa. Here we go. Verbal agreement in place for 27 million euros. Total package, add-ons included with Galatasaray. Loan deal with a buy option clause. Understand medical will take place on Wednesday if all goes to plan. Personal terms agreed. Zaniolo wanted Aston Villa. And you know what? I think this is a good signing for Aston Villa, but I think it's a very risky signing when you look at, well, it's not risky in terms of because it's only a loan deal with an option to buy, but if it with him having 2 ACLs and always getting injured, I mean, it is a risk for Aston Villa.
Yeah, I think so. But you got to remember, a year ago, or was it? Yeah, I think it was a year ago, Tottenham were very heavily linked with a 50 million euro approach for him, and they were trying to get that price down. I think they, at the time, when they were trying to negotiate with Roma, wanted a loan with an option to buy. That never materialised, and Zaniolo kicked up a fuss, and it ended up causing friction between him and the club, and he ended up leaving on loan at the end of the window to Galatasaray. Hasn't quite worked out for him there for one reason or another, but I still think there's a player with huge potential. And when you're looking at Buendia, who's got a serious injury, who's going to be out for many months, in terms of getting a replacement for him on short notice, someone who can fill in that role and potentially can could even be better than Buendia. I think you're hard pressed to find a better loan deal than someone like Zaniolo who's available. So I think it's a good deal. I think they've done well to get him with the kind of loan deal they've brought him in for. But it remains to be seen whether he's suited to the Premier League and whether he can get over these injury issues. But if he can, he's a serious talent.
Yeah, I think he will be suited to the Premier League. I think it's mainly the injury problems that he has to get over. And you're talking about a 27 million euro package to take him over from Turkey to the Premier League if it goes well for him at Aston Villa. So I think it's good that it is a loan with an option to buy for Aston Villa, so they can try and test before they sign on that dotted line to actually part with cash. But yeah, I think they got to go into it with their eyes wide open, because once you have 2 ACLs, it's dodgy business there. But another player who could be potentially coming into Aston Villa is Marcos Acuna. Roma says that Aston Villa have genuine interest in Marcos Acuna. He's one on the list, potential next target. No agreement on a fee with Sevilla. Player keen on Premier League experience. Lucas Digne could leave as Saudi clubs, and also 2 European clubs are keen to sign him, and Zaniolo is arriving today. So, I mean, Marcos Acuna would be a great signing for Villa.
Yeah, but it's a weird one because they've already got Lucas Digne and they've got...
Well, he's saying Lucas Digne could be leaving.
Okay, so if he replaces Lucas Digne, that's a fairly good sign. But I like Lucas Digne. I think he's a good left back. I think Acuna is probably a bit better. Emery signed Alex Moreno in January as well. He's been starting majority of the games when he's been fit. I think he's also got a bit of an injury at the moment. He had a great World Cup, Marcos Acuna. He's a very strong, very aggressive left back. Very good when he gets forward as well, providing an option in the final third. Really good ability to whip it across. I think he would fit in right in the Premier League, and I think Unai Emery will know exactly what to do with him as well as his left back. So class signing if they pull it off.
Yeah, I think he would slot straight into Emery's system, to be honest. I think it would be a top signing for them. Another player going out to Saudi is Merih Demiral. Romano says that Ahli will formally complete Demiral deal today. Contracts being checked and signed for the Turkish centre-back. Fee will be around 80 million euros, and the here we go has been confirmed. So yet another top talent going over to Saudi.
No surprises. I think from Demiral's point of view, I don't think he's going to be getting too many amazing offers at this point anyway. He obviously was very good at Juventus, but his career's taken a bit of a downturn after a serious injury over the last couple of years. So considering that, I think when the offer comes from Saudi for someone like Demiral, I think you're going to jump at the chance.
Yeah, he actually had a really good season last year for Atalanta. I'm surprised he's leaving there so quick, and especially for a fee of only 18 million. I thought he would have gone for at least between the 20s and the 30 million pound mark, but another one going out to Saudi. Now let's talk about Chelsea. Chelsea. Spending like never before. Roméo Lavia. Romano says, Roméo Lavia to Chelsea, here we go. Deal agreed between the clubs on a final fee short of £60 million, add-ons including structure. Also agreed Lavia will undergo medical tests this week. Just informally by the clubs that the agreement has been reached. Roméo said yes to Chelsea on Monday. Another player on top of Caicedo has turned down Liverpool in favour of Chelsea. And look, it's a good signing, but he's not going to be their first choice, is he?
Well, look, they have options, and he might be in a 4-3-3 if they end up playing through midfield. I think he would fit right in. Although he's 19, he doesn't need to be first choice. And yes, 60 million is a big outlay for a player when you're only looking at real potential instead of actually a player who's going to be a star straight away. But we've all seen the potential Lavia has this season for last season for Southampton. He's clearly going to be a Premier League player for a very long time. And I think as a midfield option for Chelsea, someone to bet in, and you have Caicedo and Enzo ahead of him, I think it's the kind of perfect thing. Even though you would say, spending 60 million for a potential backup is an outlandish thing to do, but if you have the money and Chelsea are just going to pay whatever the asking price is, then what can you say? It's just they're getting their business done. It's ridiculous, but I can't criticise them for getting the player they want.
I mean, everyone has been criticising Chelsea for overspending and spending so much money since Bowley has come in. I mean, you're talking about 200 million dropped just in the last day.
Yeah, but the way they've structured their business and the way also with the fact that they've got so many players out the door for big money as well means they're able to do it.
Do you think Bowley is a madman, or do you think he's a genius with the way he's doing his business?
A madman or a genius? I would say it's clever what he's doing with the FFP. That's clever. I would say how he went about his business last season, about who he signed and the amount of players he signed, I would say he's a madman. Because I think it was never going to bring success, the approach he took. But I think in the way he's structuring his transfers, I think that's genius. I think that's a way of getting around the rules.
You've never found a chairman that has found so many loopholes like Todd Bowley has. It's absolutely madness to think about. And when you're looking at Chelsea, the squad has been completely reshaped, reformed. The average age of the squad has completely been cut dramatically. And they've done a rebuild in the space of 6 months, what clubs don't usually do in like 3 years. It's
Correct.
Madness.
I think he just wants to accelerate. He doesn't want to wait and spend time for process and stuff. And I think that's what caught him in trouble. The lack of patience last season, trying to do things way too quickly and not giving the projects time to breathe and having 30 first team players and causing the team dynamics to have trouble. That's what did cause an issue. Now they've refined that. And I think he's still learning on the job, and we'll still see whether it'll bring success straight away.
Do you think it's like, though, too many young and up-and-coming players in his squad, or do you think that these are the kind of players that Pochettino likes to work with?
No, I think it's the players Poch likes to work with, and I think it's probably a good move. But he has to realise that with players this young, it's very unlikely they're going to go and achieve big things straight away. It's going to need time and patience. And if they do finish, say, sixth or fifth or sixth this season, and not necessarily go for a title challenge, he has to stick with his guns and be patient with the project, because I do think long term this is clearly, I think it will work. I think these players are fantastic, but he's got to be patient with it. Last season was just a bit of a mess, his strategy, but let's see if he's learned his lessons.
But it's like usually the strategy is buy big players ready-made to come in. Now they're like all young up-and-coming players, all going to grow together, all going to be moulded together by Pochettino. I think Chelsea are going to be an absolute force in probably about 2 years' time.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I agree. But he's got to stick with it.
Yeah. Let's talk about another incoming to Chelsea, and that is Michael Olise. As Fabrice Hawkins saying, agreement in principle between Palace and Chelsea for Olise for slightly less than €40 million. The fee Chelsea will pay for Michael Olise is close to its clause, which is slightly less than £34 million. Olise and Chelsea have an agreement on personal terms, and Ornstein just confirmed that, saying Chelsea believed to have activated the release clause of Michael Olise's contract. Expect to complete the signing in due course. The deal is being finalised. It would guarantee Crystal Palace $35 million. The 21-year-old is recovering from injury and not likely to be back before November, end of October.
That's quite a bad injury. That's a big blow for him. But what a player! I think he's absolutely phenomenal. I think he's probably the best young winger in the Premier League, apart from maybe Bukayo Saka. I think he's an absolute star in the making. I think he's already showing his talent in the Premier League right now. I think once he gets settled in this Chelsea team, he's going to absolutely explode. I think he's going to be a phenomenal signing, and I think they've got an absolute bargain of the summer signing him with $35 million.
Was he needed?
They've only got Madueke on the right, so from that sense, was he needed? I think he's better than Madueke. Provides good competition. I wouldn't say he was like 100% necessary, but they've upgraded their right winger for $35 million for a player who I think is Premier League ready right now. There's still question marks on Madueke on that front, so probably was needed. Yeah.
I was listening to a debate on TalkSport today with Danny Murphy and Simon Jordan. Right, they were arguing. Well, they were actually in agreement, but they were arguing with some callers saying, is this a scattergun approach from Chelsea, or is this carefully thought out about the players that they're bringing in? What would you say?
I think last season was definitely a scattergun 100%. I think this season is definitely more carefully thought out, choosing your positions, carefully getting rid of players and filling in players who are needed. But I wouldn't say they've gone overboard, but they've kind of spared no expense, I should say, with a lot of options. Like, do we need a backup centre mid? Fine, we'll drop 60 million on a backup centre mid. Do we need competition for right wing? Fine, we'll drop 35 million. Did our centre back just get injured last week? Fine, we'll drop 40 million on a new one, no problem. So I wouldn't say it's like crazy, but it's very it's just something that other clubs won't be able to do.
Yeah.
People usually clubs have to be a bit more careful when they're building a squad. They're not being careful with it, but I would say they're they're signing players who are necessary.
Yeah, look, everyone lives within their means, and this is what within Chelsea's means, is it? So that's the crazy thing about it. With a player going out of Chelsea is Hakim Ziyech. Romano says that Chelsea have reached a verbal agreement in principle with Galatasaray for Hakim Ziyech transfer deal, subject to further details and also medical tests, as Chelsea are careful after twists with PSG and Al-Nassr. I mean, I swear he failed a medical with Al-Nassr not long ago. So what's to say he passes this medical at Galatasaray?
Well, maybe they won't care. I'm not sure. Look, I think he's outstayed his welcome at Chelsea for a while now. He needs to leave for the betterment of his career. He's really stagnated. I don't think he was ever really suited to the Premier League the way he plays as well. I think he's a good player, but I think, yeah, for sure Chelsea are right to part ways with him at this point.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's going there to replace Nicoló Zaniolo as well. So
should be a good replacement for Galatasaray.
Yeah, I think Ziyech is a good player. I think he's got a lot of talent, and I think he'll rip up that league, to be honest. Let's talk about an outgoing from La Liga, and it's Gabri Veiga. Romano says that Napoli have just improved their bid for Gabri Veiga. New proposal on the table and deal getting closer for Spanish top talent. Celta Vigo want to find a solution by the end of the week before the next game. All parties confident and negotiations are underway. So Napoli replenishing that squad with a really good player here.
Finally replacing Ndombele. Yeah. But look, it's a good signing. I think Gabri Veiga is one of the most sought after kind of attacking number 8s in Europe right now. He's had a brilliant season with Celta Vigo. He's like a bit of a pit bull in the centre, but he's got this really good creative side. He's obviously more attacking action than he is defensive, but he also has this strength in him as well, where he's not like a liability off the ball. I think he's a really top player, and I think Napoli, being Serie A champions, have got to use that leverage to sign someone, and I think that'll be a very good signing to add him to the squad for sure, and it'll help maybe build on last season, because they seem like they won the league, but they haven't really done much this summer. Yeah. So I think that would be a good start. I think it'll be a really good signing for them, to be honest. Next up, let's talk about Alisson. Becker. Sebastian Dennis says that Becker is being targeted by Al-Nassr, and the Brazilian would be tempted by a move to Saudi. Can you envisage Alisson going out to Saudi this summer? I mean, so many players have gone. I mean, I would like to say no, but Neymar's gone. There's like so many big players now in. This is potentially the best goalkeeper in Europe. It is, and it would be a massive shock. I did read a report that he's already distanced himself from these links, but if they offer, look. I think Jordan Henderson didn't want to go, and he was probably just like on the phone, yeah, give me 700 grand a week and I'll come. They're like, okay. He was like, right. He was like, okay, maybe I will actually go. And so you never know, if Alisson's like, I don't want to go, give me $1 million a week and maybe I'll consider. They're like, all right, we'll do it. And then maybe he'll be like, fine, I'll come. So I think at this point, I can't rule out anyone going over to Saudi at this point. I think if anyone gets an offer, you've got to say there's a chance they'll take it. Yeah. But I mean, Alisson, Becker, that would be crazy to me. The best, I can rate him in the top 3 goalkeepers in Europe right now when you're looking at it, and it would be absolutely nuts if he was to go. Yeah, and Liverpool, considering their defensive problems, they don't want to be losing Alisson right now. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about Mitrovic once again. Romano says Al Hilal are insisting to sign Mitrovic from Fulham. Negotiations are back on track since Saturday, and also a new proposal is on the table. Al Hilal want Mitrovic as the central striker and hope to get the deal done this week. So, and I believe things might have moved on a little bit since this update as well. I think a deal is very close to being agreed, if not has been agreed. So I fully expect Mitrovic to be playing in Saudi very soon. Yeah, 46 million. It's a lot of money. I think it's a good deal for Fulham, and if they can use that, I know they've got Jimenez through the door, but if they can use that to even sign another striker to help support Jimenez, I think it's probably worth doing the deal. And Mitrovic clearly isn't happy. He wants to go. I think it's best for everyone. Obviously, they've held a hard bargain playing him through pre-season. Marco Silva saying, look, he's here to stay, and they're trying to get the best price, and they've got 46 million. I don't think it's getting any better than that. And I think Mitrovic is a good striker, but from that price, they can get a striker who could be equally as good as him. So I think it's a good deal. Next up, let's talk about Jose Mourinho's Roma, as
they have reactivated talks with Atalanta to sign Duvan Zapata. Deal on as parties advance. He's the next target after Paredes and Renato Sanchez. New round of negotiations taking place as Mourinho wants Zapata. What do you make out of this one?
I like Duvan Zapata. I think he was maybe at his best a couple of years ago. I think he's been a pretty good striker in Serie A, and I actually think the way he plays is quite suited to Mourinho. He's very strong. He can be quite quick in the transition as well. He's a very, very decent finisher. Doesn't have like the best first touch, but I think he's got really good physical traits that Romo and Mourinho really appreciate. I think Tammy Abraham, if I remember rightly, he's still got quite a bad injury, doesn't he? So I think he's going to be unavailable for a bit. So having Zapata to come in and replace him, I think that's pretty good. A player who knows Serie A, can score goals in that league, and I think can do the job Mourinho asks. Yeah,
the thing is though, I'm not convinced on Zapata anymore. I'm really not. I think he had a really poor season last year for Atalanta. He's got his injury problems that have crept up over the last couple of years as well. I think he only scored like 2 goals or something for Atalanta last year. So if it's just a stopgap until Tammy Abraham's back, I don't think it's too bad. But if they're going to try and use him as their main striker for next season, I'm not sure if it's the best move, him 32 years old as well.
I think I'd envisage it being a stopgap, and on that front, I think it's not bad on a short-term basis.
And last but not least, let's talk about David De Gea, as the Bayern Munich goalkeeper search might just be over, as Florian Plettenberg says that Bayern have held talks with David De Gea's representatives about a move. The Spaniard has given the green light and personal terms won't be an issue. Bayern will finalise De Gea on a free transfer if they can't agree a deal to sign Stefan Ortega from Man City. So De Gea's sloppy thirds, fourths. What's this for Bayern Munich?
And Pep said that Ortega definitely don't want to let him go. He said that publicly. So I envisage that's going to be a difficult deal for Bayern. They keep missing out on keepers left, right and centre. Kepa, they push forward and he's gone to Real Madrid. David Raya's gone to Arsenal. They've lost Jan Sommer to Inter Milan. So they just need a goalkeeper. And I think, to be fair, David De Gea, I know he's old and not at his best, but they've got Neuer coming back, although he's old and not at his best either. But I do think De Gea's probably got enough for them to maybe obviously win the Bundesliga. But when it gets to the Champions League, will he get found out a bit? Potentially. But I think De Gea is still a decent keeper. So, I mean, if it's going to be a short-term deal, they just need cover for keeper right now. If he's willing to do that job, it's probably a good move for him.
But it makes me think, like, why don't you just stick with Jan Sommer? Like, why didn't they just stick with him? It didn't make I think Jan Sommer's a better goalkeeper right now than David De Gea, and I think he's really is a top goalkeeper, and you'll probably see that Inter Milan next season.
Yeah, I think he was quite good at the back end for Bayern Munich, and I think as well in the Bundesliga for Mönchengladbach he was a very good keeper as well. So I'm surprised they just let him go. I didn't really understand it. I don't really understand it, to be honest, because they had a keeper there for the short term. Why not just stick with him? I agree. I think it's a bit bizarre, but they put themselves in this situation. I think out of the options now, De Gea's not the worst option.
All right, so there you have it. That is the transfer update for today. Let me know in the comments section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories today, and we'll see you next time.